All right, welcome back to Basement Discussion. I'm Jack Bukovic. This is my first episode. I'm here with Aiden and Zach as normal. So first off, Zach, to start this episode 3, what's our first question today?
Alright, so our first question is, who are the winners and losers of the trade deadline?
Aiden, would you mind if I answer first on that one?
All right.
So, for the trade deadline, my biggest winner is by far the Los Angeles Dodgers. When you get to add someone like Manny Machado and Brian Dozier to shore up the infield, John Axford for the bullpen, and even though they gave up prospects, they're in the position of winning now. There's no doubt in my mind that the Dodgers are the winner of the trade deadline.
Well, I think the Dodgers did well with the Dozier acquisition specifically, but I think the Machado trade was really a bad trade for them because Machado is going to be a free agent at the end of the year. Obviously, they have the money; they could probably re-sign him, but it's not a sure thing. And they gave up mainly the big centerpiece was Yusniel Diaz, and he's a big-time prospect. I know he's only ranked number 57 in MLB's top 100 for top prospects, but if you've watched him play, looked at his stats, you know that he's going to be really, really good. Dean Kramer was also given up in the trade, relief pitcher. He went over to Baltimore, and he projects to be a good bullpen piece. So, well, I think the Dozier trade really helped them out, and that was probably one of the sneaky best trades of the deadline. I think the Machado trade balances it out, and overall, it was a decent but not spectacular deadline.
Okay, but if you're a team like the Los Angeles Dodgers, right, your goal is to win the World Series these next few years. Why does someone like Yusniel Diaz matter when you can get someone like Machado that gives them the chance to winning the World Series this year, considering how close they were last year?
That's true, but Yusniel Diaz is in Double-A right now. He could easily be MLB ready in a year or two.
Not for the World Series this year.
Not the World Series this year, but how about next year and the year after, and the 6 years after that when you're guaranteed to have one?
Well, you talk about a team like the Dodgers, they still have one of the richest farm systems and continue to always do so, right?
Not anymore. I wouldn't say they're even close to one of the richest farm systems now. It's pretty depleted. A lot of their big names.
When you look at their scouting, you look at their drafting, it's consistently very strong.
That's true.
So if you're a team like the Dodgers, you can continue to spend prospects to get guys like Manny Machado's and still bounce back.
That's true. But I think a much bigger winner was Tampa Bay. They obviously are in a rebuilding state. They had Chris Archer, who he's a pretty good pitcher, but statistically, he's nothing insane. But they traded him to Pittsburgh, and the haul they got back is a haul you'd expect for a pitcher that's a hell of a lot better. They were able to get Austin Meadows and Tyler Glasnow, two very, very solid prospects. Meadows is hitting around 290, I believe, as a rookie, and Glasnow is a starting pitcher who's decent right now and has a ceiling that's very high. If you're going for Archer because of his controllability, why would you trade away two pieces that you have for 6 to 7 years?
I'd agree with that. For the most part, I didn't like that trade for the Pirates and really liked it for the Rays. The only thing I have to say is, if you're a team like the Tampa Bay Rays, you have a guy like Chris Archer with control, and you're a small market like that, you need those smaller contracts like Chris Archer to compete like further on. So sure, the Rays aren't in contention this year, but but regardless of this trade or not, they're in a position to compete in the next few years. So a guy like Archer who has control, he's cheap, he might be a big asset down the road, and that might hurt him later on.
But Glasnow and Meadows are in control.
I'd agree overall it's a good trade, but it still hurts a little bit to give up a guy like Archer.
Alright, so we heard about some of your winners. Do you have any major losers from the trade deadline?
Mind if I go first again?
Sure.
Alright, so my biggest loser, this is a controversial one because a lot of people call them a big winner this deadline, is I think the Milwaukee Brewers are the biggest loser. And sure, they made a couple great trades that individually they'd be great trades, such as trading for Jonathan Scope and Mike Moustakas, but altogether it really doesn't make much sense. So you already have a third baseman in Travis Shaw. So they trade for Mike Moustakas, say they're going to move Shaw to second. Great, that makes sense. That's a solid trade. Mike Moustakas is a solid player. But then when you add someone like Jonathan Scope, whose only two positions are second and third, it doesn't seem to make much sense. But then when you look even deeper in the fact that the Brewers are one of the strongest defensive teams in baseball, what they rely on is their strong bullpens and their strong defense. And when you do something like that and add two players that you don't really need in a team with a weak starting rotation, it doesn't make much sense for the Brewers this deadline.
Yeah, I think they should have addressed their starting pitching issues. Right now, it's Chacin and Anderson are their 1 and 2. And if they really want to contend with the Cubs down the stretch in the NL Central, they need to add an ace, I think. But I think
like a Chris Archer. Chris Archer would have been perfect. The Brewers in a much better position.
Yeah. But I think the team that fared the worst this deadline was Washington, the Nationals. You're sitting at 500. You've been 500 all year. You were supposed to do very big things. The deadline rolls around. They're saying Washington's deciding whether to buy or sell. If you sell, you have Ryan Madson, Brandon Kinsler, Bryce Harper, Daniel Murphy, Gio Gonzalez, a lot of players who are free agents after this year to sell. And if you buy, you got to go. You get JT Realmuto or someone who can help you this year. Instead, they do literally nothing. They trade Brandon Kinsler for a single-A pitcher just because they thought that he leaked some clubhouse rumors. But you do nothing else. You're sitting at 500. Bryce Harper is probably leaving after this year. Either trade him and get something back, or make a run this year. Go get JT Realmuto. Give up Carter Kieboom and Victor Robles. You got to do something. What do you want to do? Finish 500, third in your division, not get very much compensation for Harper. I believe it's a 4th-round pick because of their luxury tax, and watch him leave. Or you trade him and rebuild, replenish your farm system, or go get a big name. Even Wilson Ramos, who the Phillies stole, another big win of the deadline. Go get him. I know he's out a couple weeks, but if you want to win, you need to add something. Matt Wieters is hitting 196. You think he's going to play catcher on a team that's going to win a World Series? At this point, they're not even going to win their damn division.
I'd agree for the most part with that. The fact that, if you're Washington, you're sitting there, you're watching the Braves and the Phillies continue to have this advantage over you while you're just plundering around 500. You need to make some kind of addition. I agree with that. But the big thing I have to say is just the luck of the Nationals overall. If you look at their Pythagorean win-loss, which shows about based on, you know how it works, but for our fans, I'll explain it, shows basically how many games you should win based on how many runs you've scored and how many runs you've given up. Their Pythagorean win-loss is 61-47, which would be in first place in the NL East. So just based on their luck, they should be doing better. But if you're the Nationals, you have to say something isn't adding up. We're better than the sum of our parts. And in some cases, for a lot of teams, that's adding a part that does that. So to reach that potential, they really need to add someone. I would agree that they're a big loser this deadline.
I'm not saying that Washington isn't a better team. I think they, on paper, are better than the Phillies and the Braves. And I think they can still win the division. But you're not going to do much in October when essentially these days you're hitting with a 7-man lineup. Obviously the pitcher's in the 9 spot, and then you have the 8 spots, Matt Wieters, Pedro Severino, Spencer Kieboom, who have combined in every major statistical category to be the worst in the MLB for catchers. You can't win with that in the playoffs. JT Realmuto would have been nice to add, as I said multiple times, or even Wilson Ramos.
With Realmuto, I think the thing that's difficult is in-division trades. You saw it a lot this year, which surprised me, but overall you don't really see a lot of in-division trades.
Miami rejected Washington's offer and countered. They said Victor Robles and Carter Kieboom gets the deal done, and Washington said no. I mean, Kieboom's a very big prospect. Robles is the number 3 prospect in baseball. But we have Juan Soto now. You have Adam Eaton and Michael Taylor. So even if Harper leaves, your outfield is sound. You have Turner up the middle and Murphy. If Murphy leaves, you have Defoe. You're fine. You need a catcher. JT Realmuto, you add a catcher who hits 300 and runs very, very well for a catcher.
Too.
Yeah. You add him, and you lose a second base prospect and an outfield prospect that you don't really need because your organization's deep there. That puts you over the hump come October, and I think it would really make them the favorites in their division.
I'd agree for the most part. I don't know what Mike Rizzo's thinking up there in his office at Nationals Park.
He said he has confidence in his guys.
I don't.
All right, so you guys really just touched on it, but who do you guys think will be coming out of the National League East?
National League East, that's a tough division, and I know this is something Aidan's very passionate about, being a Nationals fan. But overall, because of the lack of deadline moves, I'm going to have to go with the Philadelphia Phillies winning the division. When you look at it overall, what they've done with the team I really like. You have a young overall position. Their lineup's young, which down the playoff stretch sounds worrying. But overall, the talent that they have with Franco, Hoskins, and Herrera, that's a really strong trio right there. And then when you have the veteran experience with someone like Carlos Santana, I really like what the Phillies are doing. But then only to top it off, their rotation is overall pretty strong. When you have a young pitcher like Noah, a really experienced guy in Arrieta, Pavetta's put together an all right year, but Velasquez and Eflin have come out of nowhere to really put together strong years and shown that the Phillies overall can compete with other teams because of their starting pitching.
I agree, Philly, especially in a couple years from now and probably next year, are going to be very dangerous. Young core of players and a good rotation, plus Arrieta to really head as a veteran. But this season, I think Washington's winning the division. I know they didn't do much at the deadline, but they're playing very well as of late. They dropped 25 on the Mets. They're on a 3-game win streak now. They have the experience. They're 4-time champions of that division over the last 6 years. They are the team to beat. They're not going to get nervous. Other teams are going to see them coming behind them and start to get nervous. They have the best rotation in the division. Fulton Everett has been struggling for the Braves as of late. Sean Newcomb obviously just had a good outing, but he's not what he was earlier this year. And other than that, the Braves aren't very deep. Tehran's at 3, and he has a 4.50 ERA.
I think we can both agree that the Braves are pretty much out. That down the stretch, the Braves won't hold up. That's going to be Phillies Nationals.
And Phillies, I think Arrieta's very good, and Nola's amazing, but he's young. But after that, their rotation's not that deep. Velasquez is having a decent year. Yeah, Eflin's having a decent year. Pavetta gets rocked like 90% of his starts. That's not going to win a division. You look at Washington, they're finally healthy. Bryce Harper's hitting 450 over his last week, 310 since the home run derby, which really fired him up. You have Max Scherzer, Steven Strasburg coming back healthy, Tanner Roark gets his form back like he has, and you have Hellickson, who's been incredible this year. He's been better than all the Braves players you mentioned. Malone looks very good in his first 2 starts, filling in. And then Gio, who knows? He hasn't been great lately. He's the weak link in that rotation, but you have enough pieces to overcome that and put someone else in the rotation. And worst comes to worst, you bring up Eric Fetty. He hasn't been great in his major league career, but he's better than Gio, and he's better than the 5s on all the other teams in our division. And then you got a hot Harper, a hot Murphy, a hot Rendon. You have Adam Eaton, who consistently hits about 310. He's just a hitting machine. Nobody's going to beat that down the stretch.
One thing I bring up about the Phillies rotation is I think it's a lot stronger than I'm giving it credit for. Like, when you look at someone like Nick Pivetta and they're fielding independent pitching, it just shows he's had a lot of bad luck throughout the stretch. His ERA is 4.75, which is not good by any means. When you look at his FIP, it's 3.58, which is overall, if you account that as his real ERA, that's a pretty solid year you're getting from Pivetta, and overall a solid 5-man rotation. So I think someone like Pivetta is a big X factor in how the Phillies do down the stretch. And if he can get better luck and bear down, not get frustrated, and continue pitching like he has with better luck, I really think he'll be strong. And somewhere else we haven't looked at is the bullpen. And the Phillies' bullpen is really strong, even though there's not a lot of names you've heard of in it. If you look all around their bullpen, aside from Tommy Hunter, overall everyone in that bullpen has been very strong. So that's something that's important down the stretch, is the Phillies don't blow a lot of games because of that strong bullpen.
I think Washington bullpen is just as strong, but yeah. The thing is, you talk about Nick Pavetta's fielding independent pitching.
Mm-hmm.
His fielding independent pitching is in the mid to high 3s. That's Gio Gonzalez's ERA, and he's a weak link in the Nationals' rotation. So if that's your 3, and Gio Gonzalez is our 5, 6, even 7,
I think
you can
Pavetta's
argue.
the 5. I wouldn't even agree that this list is in order.
I think he's their 3. He's a 3 if you're going to playoff series, you're going to pitch Arrieta or Nola game 1.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to go with the other one game 2. There's no way you're putting Velasquez or Eflin in game 3 over Pivetta.
Okay, but wouldn't you agree that, or also when you look at the fielding independent pitching, Nationals have 2 guys over 4 in Tanner Roark and Gonzalez. Phillies have none of them.
That's true. But Tanner Roark...
Overall, when you're talking about ability, if you're looking at something like fielding independent pitching, which shows like true strength, not just luck, wouldn't you say that the Phillies overall are stronger in that category?
They have a better fielding independent pitching as a team? Maybe.
As a team, but like every single member of their rotation is sub-4, while the Nationals have 2 over 4.
Okay, but Washington also has a lot of fill-ins that are very good. And in a playoff series...
Oh, I agree in depth, but we're talking about winning the division here. Why are we talking about playoff series?
I'm saying we're talking about which division is better. In a playoff race, you think Phillies have a better shot because of their rotation? Tanner Roark, since the All-Star break, and he's always been a second-half pitcher. In his career, is an ERA over 4.50 in the first half and under 2.30 in the second half.
All right.
He's given up 1 run in 15 innings since the All-Star break. Gio Gonzalez, I don't know what's going on. Like, he might be good, he might not. It's Gio. He'll always just give like 4 runs over like 7 innings. He's sketchy. But if you think that a rotation is going to feature Scherzer as a 1, obviously. Scherzer wins every game.
Yeah.
Strasburg wins a decent amount of games. Then you add Roark, who suddenly rediscovered his form.
What about Strasburg's injury, though? He's on the DL right now.
He's coming back soon.
He's coming back soon.
He threw from 90 feet today, and they said one more throw in from 90 feet to be able to throw off a mound, so they expect him back sometime next week.
But he's a guy who's always struggled with injuries, so that's something you always have to account for, is you never know when his arm's going to blow up.
That's the great part about Washington's rotation, though. They have Malone and Hellickson, who've both been fill-ins, and they both are incredible. Hellickson's arguably our most consistent pitcher this year, aside from Scherzer.
I'd agree with that the rotation is stronger, but like also considering the fact that the bullpen, I think the Phillies by far have the stronger bullpen. Sure, the Nationals have Doolittle. He's injured right now. He's a really strong pitcher. I'd give that to the Nationals. But they trade away Kinsler, who's overall a pretty solid reliever, even though he hasn't been a great year for him. I mean, Madsen
just struggled at the beginning. He's gotten together now.
All right, well, Solis.
They cut Sean Kelly.
Solis isn't great. Solis.
He's up and down from the minors. Most of our bullpen pitchers that have been really consistent for us, Doolittle, Madsen since April.
Mm-hmm.
Justin Miller has been very good. He struggled a little as of late, but he's a very solid pitcher. And Kelvin Herrera. You just don't even mention Kelvin Herrera. Arguably one of the best pitchers in baseball. Relief pitchers in baseball.
4.30 ERA is one of the best relief pitchers in baseball.
That's just when he came to Washington. Look at his ERA in the season.
Oh, buddy, that makes sense. That makes sense. Well, still, overall, the offense, too. That's where the Phillies have the clear edge over the Nationals.
Oh.
Buddy.
At what position?
as a whole, as a unit. We're talking about teams, not players.
Washington is better at every position but catcher.
The outfield.
Bryce Harper, Adam Eaton, Juan Soto.
Hoskins, Herrera, and Williams.
Okay, Bryce Harper, Juan Soto, and Adam Eaton.
We don't know if Juan Soto's a sure thing.
Juan Soto's hitting .310 as a 19-year-old over now 3 months, and he's hit.
Okay, like as it goes on for any rookie like that, they find more struggles as they go on.
He's getting
How can you
better
trust
every month.
How can you trust Juan Soto going into a playoff race, having no experience in that before?
Because he never strikes out. He always makes contact. He hits for power and average.
He never strikes out. He's never struck out.
Joey Votto, you would say never strikes out, even though he obviously
Never.
strikes out.
Never say never.
Joey Votto and Juan Soto are comparable swings. I think they're the two most similar swings. Just swing, pure swing.
Swing? I thought we were a stats show.
Okay, stats. A 19-year-old hitting over 300 with 13 homers so far in his rookie campaign.
Okay. I still don't trust
Which
rookie
outfielder,
players down the.
which outfielder on the Phillies would you rather have than Juan Soto on your team?
Hoskins and Herrera.
You'd rather have Hoskins or Herrera?
Hoskins are this season.
Yes.
If we're talking about this season,
Yes.
Hoskins or Herrera.
No way.
I want the experience.
What are the stats?
The stats?
So neither of them's played in the playoffs. It doesn't help in the playoffs now, does it?
We're talking about experienced major leaguers.
They're all first or second year players. Juan Soto's a first year player.
Herrera's been in the league for 3 years.
3 years.
3 years.
Yeah. That's one
Not
player.
one, not two,
How about
3
Hoskins?
years.
How about Hoskins?
Second year.
Okay. Juan Soto first year, but he's on
I
a
want
team that's
I want a
experienced.
guy on my team who's been there for
Okay.
at least a year or two and like basically knows what he's doing in the big leagues. Sure, like Soto started off hot. I'll give it to that. He's played really well since he's been off. But to expect a young guy like that to basically carry your team because of how Bryce Harper
Bryce
played.
Harper has been insane since
He's had a good week. Yeah,
since the All-Star break.
Okay, so he's had a good few weeks. But like what I'm saying is to expect Juan Soto to carry a big load.
He doesn't have
big
to.
load. Anyway,
He doesn't have to carry a big load. He doesn't have to.
Heavy load. We'll say that. That's more appropriate for our
He doesn't
viewers.
have to.
But basically he does.
Why?
In that outfield. I mean,
Adam Eaton's hitting 320 this year.
okay.
He's experienced. He's
Nick
in the league.
Williams is hitting 258 this year.
Bryce Harper has been in the league for 7 years. Do you really think he's going to hit 230 all year? No.
I mean, he did it for the first time.
No,
in
he hits 214. He's up to 230 in 2 weeks. Has another good 2 weeks, up to 246. Slowly that average creeps up.
I still don't trust this season on him.
Bryce Harper is by far the Nationals' best playoff hitter
Okay, well,
and clutch hitter. So down the stretch, he'll be
do you
valuable.
play a playoff game to win the division?
I consider games down the stretch pretty much as stressful as a playoff game when it comes to playing when you're in a divisional race. Yes.
You consider it, but is it?
You said who's better?
You're talking about his playoff stats.
You're talking about experience. You're saying a guy that has 7 years and Adam Eaton who's been off for even longer than that. That's experience. What other position? Nationals have a better outfield. Nationals have a better second baseman.
Michael Franco at third.
Anthony Rendon. What
Michael
stat is Franco better in? Or defense? None.
Franco gets on base a lot.
Rendon gets on base a lot. Rendon's hitting 290.
Okay, what's on base? That's more important.
His on base? I don't know what his on base is off the top of my head.
Well, I know Franco's and it's 322, and that's pretty
That's
darn
not that good.
I think it is.
That's not that good.
In my humble opinion.
Anthony Rendon's on base percentage this season.
You ready for this? You ready for this?
Alrighty.
His on base percentage this season is 348.
I hate basement discussions.
So I think that's a good way to end our show. Thanks for watching. This episode was a little bit different. We had Jack here instead of Mason, but I think he did a good job discussing. He knows his stuff about baseball. And hopefully you like and subscribe. Thanks.